This is going to be video number 22 on the odds and ends make and break or hit and miss engine. And today we're going to make the governor arms, which is this little boy here. And we're just going to make two of those. And I'll show you how I do it. I don't make this out of one solid piece. I actually make it out of two pieces, silver brazed together. So I've already cut the pieces. This is 3/16 12L14 that I have plenty of. And this is going to be the end. I'm just going to solder silver braze it together like that. This is a little jig I made up to hold these pieces in place. I can just put that there and position this spring on top of it, and it's not going to cause a big heat sink away from the part. And I can do both ends of this and then cut it in half and make two. So I'll silver braze it, and Jim will make us a wonderful video of that. Get some flux here. Put a little flux on both ends. Now I'll get some silver braze. So in order to save this, I always flatten it out. That way when I place it on here, it's not going to roll off as easy when you put the torch to it. And it's easier to cut and control the amount. It takes a very, very little bit of this stuff. A pair of tweezers. Okay, I'm going to put the two of them up here. I can get at them. See, I sanded one side of that. Put just a little tiny piece on top of that. And then we'll do the other one. Make sure it's somewhere near straight. That's probably more than I need, but that's good. And now we got to heat it up without blowing that chip off of there. See that run down in there? Heat over here to try to draw the silver this way. The silver braze always tries to draw towards the heat, so if you move the torch around, it'll pull it towards it. So now I'm just going to even the ends up on the sander because there's some little lumps there. So that's just cleaned up now. Now I'm going to take and shape these ends. I don't know. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut this little curved part here with a ball end mill. And that's on a slight angle. So I'm just putting that in there, probably is about a 5-degree angle. And I'm just guessing at it. And I can adjust it afterwards, after I make one cut. 5/16 ball end mill. We're going to take a quick cut on the side of that and see how it looks. Get it down somewhere near where it's going to be. I ought to try to measure that angle so you get some idea. Yeah, I guess that's more like 10 degrees I got there. So you can see I just got the curve in there. Now I'm going to take this side off on a slight angle till I have approximately about a 1/16 left there, or less. I'm going to measure the slot that it has to go in. So this is a spool that has to fit in, and that's a 1/16 inch slot. So it has to be a little narrower than that, and it has to be sort of rounded a little bit, because it's going to just slide this piece back and forth. Actually, I could just sand that, probably. Let's try to do that. Let's just try to sand that instead of milling it. So little to take off there, it's probably easier to do it this way. Got it. So now what I'm going to do is take two chainsaw files and make the end round. Now I'm going to just flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I got a groove on both sides, and I'm going to just round this end off on the sander. 406. You see, this is 502, so it's got to cut down a little bit. So you can see maybe see the shape, and I'm going to file it just a little deeper and check its fit into the spool. What this has to do is tilt a little bit, so those, you can see how the notches allow it to tilt, even though that's, well, there's maybe a little too much slop, but the slop really doesn't matter as long as it's strong enough to pull this piece in. So I'm going to file those a little deeper, but that's probably enough the way it is, but I'm going to do them a little deeper anyway. This one has to go down just a hair more towards the bottom. Oh. There. That looks better. Okay, that's good. Now I'm just going to touch that on the sander again because it's got a little sharp edge. So all it took, just a little tiny bit. So I'm going to put some bluing on this side because we want to drill that hole in there while I have this that I can put in the vise very easy before I cut it to be really small. I try to get as much done before I cut things apart as I can, and then it's easier to handle a large part than a small part. Five 30-seconds from here, and it's 5/16 from there. Let's see how that looks. So the hole is dead center on this piece. So I'm going to go up 093 and make a mark. That's the center. Now I got to get the distance from the end. I think I know it. 156 is right there. So that's where the hole goes. I'm going to prick punch that and drill the hole before I cut this off. That's good. It's a lot easier to handle this when it's longer than when it's a small piece. Now I'm going to mark the length of this, which is 1.25 inches, and cut it off. So I'm just going to round the corner off of here just for aesthetics and clean this up a little bit before I cut it off. So I'm going to saw this off just a hair long, and then I'm going to sand it up to that line. So there it is. It's about, well, 3,000 short, but that's okay. So I made up this jig, and what this jig is going to do is going to allow me to put this in the chuck and turn that end around. All I did was I milled a slot down into here. I used a piece of, what is this? This is 3/4 inch cold roll. I milled a slot and I went half the thickness of this, which is 0.93, below the center of here. And it's 3/16 wide, so that'll fit right in there. And then I silver brazed this in there and put 2 holes so I can screw it down and secure it with 2 set screws. So the print says that that's 7/32, which is 2/18, and it's going to be turned down to 7/64. Now hopefully that should be somewhat centered. Looks pretty good. 2/18. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 18 is right there. Notice I don't have a lot more extras sticking out there. I made that so it'd be just about right. Measure that. So I think I'm going to leave that 1/8. It's stronger, if anything. Take off 5 at a time and keep measuring it. It's almost there. So that's another 3/1000. I think we'll do it. And that's pretty good. 1/8 inch exactly. So as you can see, that jig saves a lot of time, especially if you're making, I got to make 4 of these for the 2 engines, so it saves me time. You could set that up in the 4-jaw chuck, but it's kind of hard because of this thing sticking out here. But it is possible to do it. But I prefer making a little jig. It didn't take me long to make that, and that makes them all perfect every time. The next part we're going to do is this little spool here. It's a pretty simple part. It's made out of 3/4 inch. I'm using 12L14, but you could use just about anything. You could probably even use brass if you'd like to, but because there's no strain on this thing. It's just very, very light pressure on it. But I found that if I just put this starter drill in and don't protrude it very much, I can center that in that hole without a problem, even if it's off. And I don't think it's off, but I'll check it. Put this right up close. I'm going to work up to 3/8 fairly slowly with these drills. This keeps it better centered. If you take a 3/8 drill and try to run it in that 1/8 hole, it might wobble to the side. It'll definitely cut oversized too. That's going to be a reamed hole. So this is a letter U drill, and that's the closest you can get for the reaming. I think it leaves about 8 thousandths to ream out. So I'm using a 1,000th over reamer because it has to slide on the shaft. And I think that'll be enough. If it doesn't, I'll use the expandable reamer and open it up a hair more. But that's it. So what they're showing is a web of 1/32, and then a 3/32 slot, and then the piece in between. But the whole length of it is 4/37. So I'm going to go over 4/37 and mark that, so I know about where it is. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 37 right there. So now I'm going to move the width of the cutter, which should be 093. I go 93, and then 30 thousandths. 10, 20, 30. Forgot to read the depth. 125, 1/8 inch deep. I'm just going to set the dial and crank that in 125,000. There's that. Now we're going to come back, go to this end, hold it against there until that just touches. There it is. I'm going to go over 30 thousandths. Actually, it's 32nd, which is 032. I'm going to polish that up just a little bit. It looks like it's new. So that's the spool. Now we're going to make the governor bracket. Already taken and got the outside diameter turned and the inside hole. That's very simple stuff. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make it look like that on the other side. I want to do this all in one setup, so I'm going to bring that up to where it should be. You see, you can just barely make it there. Okay, that should get it solid. Now we got to center it. Put this little center finder in there. If I can hold it. Now I want to get that fairly well centered by eye, so that it's reads right. There. So we're going to go half of that, 277. We're just going to crank this back to 0. Bottom last cut, but lock the head. Now I'm going to go about 1/1000th one way and then 1/1000th the other way. Make that a little bit wide. Now I'm going to put a larger cutter in there and do the sides. I'm going to measure that and see what it is. Done. That's 1/8 inch wide. I'm going to work on the other side now. Takes quite a while to mill all that stuff out of there. Jim almost fell asleep. $15 thousandths. That's good. There under. That's good. See if that's going to work. I'm going to cut this almost all the way through and then finish it on the saw. I think that's going to be good enough. So the next thing we have to do is there's a little slot in here that allows this to fit into there.
Hold it. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna, it goes right down to the end here. It has to go in 3/16 of an inch, a little more than 3/16 of an inch deep. I didn't show that, but I squared these off before I took it out of there. So that's square now. So if I put this in there and level out with the top of the vise, this is exactly straight up and down. I'm going to put that in there thusly. I'm up almost onto it. I'm just going to put that square with the vise. I'm going to put a feeler gauge in there to give myself a little clearance for the cutter. So I put a 1/2 inch parallel underneath it to hold it up straight and square. So now I know that this is straight and square and I can just clamp it. I'm going to pull the feeler gauge out, I think, so that I don't cut the feeler gauge. There. That lined it up. I'm going to lock the table. So that has to go in 187. I'll cut a 20, see how it goes. That's the depth. And see how they fit. This should slide right in there. If it does. So if I had to have that any bigger, I can file it a little bit, but I'm just going to give it 1/1000 of an inch either way. So it has a little clearance. That gives it 2/1000 clearance. Take it off and do the other side. I'll show you how that fits. This has to go in there, and you have to be able to see the hole that I have in this, which I can. Pretty hard to show you that, but the hole just lines up. I don't think you can see it. This hole has to line up with that. So if it doesn't, you just go a little deeper.
Got it.
So I'm just lining this up with that. And if I come down on this, it should go down in there. Just a hair more. See, it slips right down in there now. So I'm going to lock this table. Then, down on this. Zero it. Down 20. That would be the depth right there. Right there. And then we'll go side to side, 1/1000. All the milling, the hole is got some burrs in it. I'll have to clean those out. Okay, that's good. As you can see, that works perfectly. I think these are going to be perfect. We'll try them. When I get it all together, I can tell if that's hitting anywhere. And I can just take a little file and clean it up a little. But that's very good. So that's the end of number 22. Next week, I'm going to show you this, and we'll do some assembly and see how that stuff all works together. So thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.